She is joining. This is a Hall of Fame guest, Moniz.
Okay.
I know that you're not a wrestling fan, but trust me when I tell you. Hall of Fame guest.
Old school wrestling.
4-time women's champion. One of the greatest of all time. You know her as Lita in the WWE, Miss Congeniality in ECW if you go that far back. But now she's just Amy Dumas, and she's joining us now on Spooky South Coast. Are you with us, Amy?
I'm here. You just cut straight to the deep tracks with Miss Congeniality, pulling that one out.
Listen, I've been a fan since those days, and I remember watching and saying, there's somebody that would be pretty good in the then WWF. But it turns out, hey, I was right. You've had a pretty successful career making it into the Hall of Fame.
I did okay.
And so now that you have, free time on your hands, now that you're retired and you're able to follow your passions, it looks like your passions have been UFO research all this time.
Yeah, I mean, that's been something that's interested me for a while. And then I met Brandon from Asai TV, and I was a guest on one of his shows. And we just got to chatting. He's like, you should do your own show on our network. It's a real DIY network, no commercials, and it's all just people, pursuing their passions and showing their interests in and whatever it is they're interested in. And I said, okay, well, I'll think about it. I'll think about because I do have a lot of different interests of what would be fun to do. And then one night we were just chatting and got into UFO talk. And then, we were 30 minutes into us just riffing on UFO stuff. He's like, this is our show, right? This is what you're going to do a show about. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so yeah, there we have it for now.
Well, what I like about it is, and there's just the 2 episodes out so far, right? We've seen the Roswell episode and the Extraterrestrial Highway. Those are the only ones that have been released so far. Right? I think we lost her. That was definitely a dropped call. That was not I don't think I made her that angry. Not on the first question yet.
No.
Hopefully she'll call right back. But
my bet is the 4th.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, it's the fact that you can just sit there and talk about what you want to create a show about, and you have that kind of freedom. So we'll see if she joins us again here in a moment. I didn't do it, I swear. Okay, here we go. She's coming back on with us. There is still with us, Amy?
I am back.
Listen, I know that you're new to a media career in terms of paranormal strange research, but get used to this kind of stuff. It's going to happen.
We just experienced some sort of interference.
If you're talking UFOs, they're listening on your phone now. It's just how it goes.
I know. I'll say that to people. Like, I'll send them articles or stuff. I'm like, sorry, I just put your name on a list by sending you that link. Absolutely.
And but don't worry. Like, eventually, there's so many names on the list. It's going to take them forever to get to you. So you're safe.
I'm deep onto the list. I'm going to get some warning signs before anything happens. Yeah. So we have the three episodes. We did one more. The 3rd episode will take place in Sedona and Santa Fe, and then after that, we'll jump back out on the road and film our next round, our road trip UFO stops.
And what I like about the show is that it's not just about the cases, and it's not just rehashing the stories of the UFOs. It's about what that means to that particular place. It's how that UFO story has given an identity to a place, and it's very much about the Americana and the kitsch of it all as it is about the actual UFO experiences.
Yeah, I loved it taking that approach on it because, first of all, it's me. I love just setting out on the open road and not real. And I'll maybe have a dart in the map as a destination, but I may not make it all the way there. But there's for sure a lot of tributaries along the way that I'm just going to stop and whatever. When I see something shiny, I'm going to stop. And,
oh, absolutely.
So I like doing that. And yeah, like you said, these towns that have. Their identities have been formed around either an event or just a phenomena in general, and then the people that you meet along the way. And I love just using a common interest as a social network, right? So I met all these people, and to say how does this culture influence your daily life, and I'm not out to set to prove anything to anyone, and there's plenty of shows and articles and people that are way more connected than I am that can do all that, and I can nerd out and read all that on my own time. But it was really just, in knowing the wide reach that I do have from my wrestling career, that people are just going to be interested to check the show out, that may have never spent 5 minutes thinking about what else could be out there, or UFOs or other species and anything like that. And it's just kind of an intro. And if anything I maybe say or somebody I interview says sparks your interest, it's so easy to just look up on your own time. And that was my approach to it. And in general is like, I'll lob something up for people of my either my values or my beliefs or whatever it is, but that's on you for you to take your own path and spend your time, researching or discovering what you want to.
And as you know from the wrestling world, it's one of your jobs as a performer is to develop your character and your persona and to create this larger than life personality. And you're actually going out there and meeting people who are just already larger than life personalities. There's nothing being put on with these people. They just are who they are, and they are characters. Yes,
I love syncing up with the local characters of that town, and I love the concept that these people have formed their own identity, and they're kind of legendary in their community, or they're, but you mean the woman that owns the little alien on the extraterrestrial highway? It's like, people know her all over the world. She's a celebrity, and she lives in Rachel, Nevada, in the middle of nowhere, and owns this tiny little motel. But people know her and talk about her, and she's warmed their experience or their vacation in some way, just having met her. And I love that aspect of these local fixtures or celebrities in their own right.
And you can catch these episodes of UFO Show on asytv.com, asytv.com. It's only $2.95 a month to get all the great programming that they have there. And what I like, too, about it is it seems like I'm just guessing from, knowing about your band that you had, the Luchagors, and everything that I know about you from what I've read online, it seems like you probably have a hand in picking a lot of that music that's being used on the show as well.
Yeah, so this has been fun since it is all self-done, totally DIY. We make up where we want to go and just go there and piece things together and call in favors for things like that. And so some of my friends have had to have written songs about UFOs or space or something like that before. And so I looked, and my friend Kepi, who was in the Groovy Ghoulies, he did the theme song years ago, 50,000 spaceships watching over me. And I said, hey, can this be our theme song to our show? And he always, of course. And then my friend, Luchagors toured with Zombina and the Skeletones, and they have a couple great songs about space and UFOs. And so they're featured in there. And just as I'm contacting friends and reaching out and saying, hey, can we use your music? And it's just giving it that feel that I feel like you get a sense of me. Like you kind of gave my resume, and at the end, and you're like, and now she's just Amy Dumas, And it's like when you watch that show, it's like, there's Amy Dumas. Like, this is the music she listens to. This is how she just chats with people she meets on the street, and kind of meanders and tells these stories in a tangenting fashion, which I consider myself to be quite a tangent specialist.
Well, one tangent that you go down is one that we also frequently go down on this show as well. And don't take this the wrong way, but there's a pretty strong focus on snacks on UFO Show.
I love my snacks.
So do we.
Somebody brought that up. They were watching the show. They're like, I love how you just stop and eat. And I was like, they're like, the shows don't do that. I was like, right, but clearly, like, we're going all day long, and one has to stop and eat. So let's pop in and just, it is. It's like a video diary / travel journal of the day, and you can watch it. It like gets dark, and yeah, we have to stop. So yeah, there's like, we stop at one of my favorite donut shops in Vegas, and stop at a Mexican restaurant in the first episode, and there's food in the third episode too, because it's just it's part of, yes, UFOs, it's going to be rooted in that culture, but it's also just, yeah, like you said too, the music, the punk rock music, or the music that I play and the food that I eat and stuff. It's just kind of, and my dog is just she's cameos all over there. Just, they pan out on this last episode and just see her. She's right there at my ankle walking to the car with me because she is. and so the Kens makes her presence known as well.
Well, you call them cameos, but you know that in season 2, she's going to demand more screen time, and there'll be riders in her contract and all that kind of stuff.
She really is. She's kind of stingy with her TV time, because sometimes she's just like, no, I'm off the clock right now. So she calls the shots and she knows it. But yeah, I always get a kick out of seeing, because I'll forget that she's there and I'm just watching the show and I'm like, oh, there's the Kems.
Well, but, if you see any shows like, if you watch Ancient Aliens or some of these other UFO-related television shows that are on network TV or even things that are online, they focus a lot on the cases, but people are watching those and saying, well, I'm interested in learning more about that, but I would never actually think to go to these places. But your show is giving them a bird's eye view of it, a chance to see what it's all about. And this is what happens when you descend upon a Roswell or descend upon Sedona. And this is what you're going to go and experience when you go there. And it's about more than just the case. It's about the culture, the people, and the impact that case has had.
Well, here's the thing is, like, I'll sit down and listen to somebody. I'll watch a crappy YouTube video of somebody at a conference where you can barely hear the audio on a specific case because I am interested I'm interested, but I understand that can be alienating to people, or that it's, it takes somebody, it's preaching to the choir, right? People that are already interested in that, or who's going to sit down and watch that, or watch. Sometimes people can get pretty intense on the topics of UFOs and what their either personal experiences or their past military experience and all of that. You can get pretty intense, and I get how that it can be too much for people. So that was not the approach I wanted to take at all. And I just wanted to have a fun, lighthearted thing, but I like to just lob out a couple food for thought items, and then if it resonates with you, like I said, that information is really easily available to kind of absorb it as you're ready for it.
And you give the information right on the screen of where people can go to find out more, and they can just take that link and fall down the rabbit hole themselves.
Right. Or you can just eat some donuts and listen to some music and watch me tell a couple corny jokes, and that's that. You're like, that's okay too.
Well, you've spent a lot of time on the road. I assume you've spent more than your fair share just driving alone at night, or being up in an airplane at night trying to get from one destination to another. Have you had UFO experiences yourself?
Yes, and that is what got me deeper into the culture and wanting to learn and explore more. We'll hear about it more on the third episode, but I was in Sedona, which is known as one of the hotspot for sightings and potentially for its portals and vortexes. There's a lot of vortexes in the area, and so I went with Melinda Leslie, who's been a known ufologist for a long time, and she does, which I loved her the way she presented information is, well, all we can do is talk about things that we can identify, that we're going to look up at the sky and see, and then everything else that you see that's unidentified, and so she runs through the whole gamut of information, how to identify what's a star, what's a planet, a satellite, a military plane, a commercial airplane, a meteorite, all of these things, how you identify them, satellites. And then, okay, so anything else we see besides those things, you can't substantiate with anybody. So I'm not telling you there's a green man driving it, but I'm telling you that that's an identified object that you're seeing moving, And so we had Gen 3 military night vision goggles on, and as the sun was setting, we just started to see multiple things up there in the sky that we couldn't identify. And then I've gone on that tour 4 times now, and I've seen something every time.
Wow. Well, and as I said, you've also been on the road quite a bit. You've stayed in a lot of hotels, and I have to ask you this: have you had any other paranormal type experiences? Any ghost experiences? Any Bigfoot sightings? Anything else that you would categorize as having been something paranormal?
Yeah, I've got one good one. So my home in Atlanta was built in 1924, and the owner, or the builder, that was his empty nest home. And in my house, or my street, it's like a little historic district street where the cul-de-sac is a little 12-unit apartment complex, but it was one house. Back in the late 1800s, early turn of the century. And so now it's, like a little cute apartment complex, and then the houses are all little bungalow styles, up the road that was just one singular driveway. My house is the empty nester home, and it butts up to an old historic cemetery. And, I go walk my dog in there, and it's like my park, right? And so when I first moved in, I had, my stations on my satellite radio programs, and I had the punk station, and I had this 40s music like Lawrence Welk and just kind of throwback, just chill, so it was like, this is my relaxing music, this is my get stuff done music, and so I would put it on, and every time I would do it, it would change to the 40s station. And I was like, I just thought it was maybe faulty wiring, which potentially, it was, and then the guy next door who owns it's his grandfather that built the entire street and lived on there. And he said, my grandfather's buried in the cemetery back here. That this was the house that when we would, I've spent a lot of time in that house. And so I asked his name and everything. And I read about it. I go, what do you do? Like, do you think it's and hiding my keys, things like, like the typical things. But I was also like, but I'm new. I just moved in. I don't have my places established. Maybe I put them somewhere else. And so I did the thing. It's, I go, okay, hey, John, I'm Amy. I bought your house and I love it, and I'm going to take great care of it. And you are welcome to spend more time in your home, as I know you did. And, and I just I said, and if just we can stay here, and I will respect your home and your space, but if you could please respect me, and can you not change the music, and can you not hide my keys, and can you just kind of let me take the reins here. And I went to his gravestone, and I found it, and I put offering, I left flowers there, and I repeated it there, and it has never happened since.
Wow. Because I was thinking, in the first episode, when you're in the basement of the Roswell UFO Museum with our friend Wendy, you're down there, and she's telling you some of the things that people have experienced with what psychics have picked up, and people have picked up a little girl down there. And so it seems like with UFO Show, you're not worried about going down some of those pathways and letting some of that stuff kind of leak into the stories that you're telling.
For sure. It's, and especially when you look into galaxies and portals and interdimension travel, and things like that, where it does kind of lead the paranormal activity into UFO culture. And when it naturally comes up like that, especially just speaking with somebody, I would never steer away and say, this isn't what we're talking about, because I love things not having a defined nature. Our theme will be UFOs, and some people are going to be funnier, and some people are going to be more intense, and some people are going to go off in another direction. And it's all what speaks to you. I just love, making friends and putting faces to these names that you've heard, and kind of just making that personal connection with everybody's journey.
And that's what it's all about, really, because we were saying before you joined us that a lot of the research, a lot of the pathways that you go down are going to intersect and cross each other, and you can't be willing to pay attention to one and completely close down another, because they're going to need to intersect and they're going to need to influence each other.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's really what I love about researching this topic is you're forced to get comfortable with the unknown, and to also to get comfortable with constantly changing and evolving your opinions, and just being open to not having the answers. And I really love that, because I feel like that's uncomfortable for a lot of people. And even somebody like me, I'm very independent. I like to be in control and kind of have a say-so. And then this whole area, you're not in control. This is something greater or bigger or unknown, or you don't have enough pieces of the puzzle, and you just have to kind of go with your experience, or go with what's happening. And I like that aspect of something that's greater than you, and just letting it happen.
I know when I was younger, a lot of my conversations about paranormal interests came up when, I'd be driving down the road with my friends in high school, like looking out the window on a dark night as we're driving down an abandoned road, and they would say, "Hey, what are you looking for?" And then I would say, "Oh, I'm just watching the sky," and that would inevitably lead to talking about UFOs and ghosts and all that. In all of your travels in your wrestling career, were there other people that you were working with that had a similar interest that you could talk about these things with?
Yeah, actually, just recently, and it is, some people, it really scares them. I was with a friend, and we traveled off into a dark road, and we took a different route. So I was like, oh, wow, I didn't think it was going to be this dark. Can we pull over? Can we just lay on the hood and look up? She's like, no way. It is so dark, and I don't want to, and I was like, yeah, but like, you get to see so much more when it's dark, and she's had such a strong aversion to doing that and she actually happened to be, as a person, quite a control freak, and I think that's the thing of like, yeah, you might see something that you can't explain and that might feel uncomfortable. And so, yeah, I was sitting in WWE, a catering table, and the Miz, who one of you is familiar with, the other one.
Oh, I definitely am, yes.
But so he sat down, and I think I had a pin on my jacket that was a UFO pin, and he was like, what is that, UFOs? You like UFO? You think they're real? You think there's green men flying around? What do you think about that? Why are you doing that? Why do you have that pin on your jacket? He just like answers for you as you have a conversation with the Miz. He's just going to tell you what you're thinking. And then so I was like, would you like to know why I have this pin now that you've just told me why I have it? And so I said, well, I went to on this tour in Sedona, and this is what I saw, and I don't know, it's just interested me. And he's like, oh, come on, and then he's just really naysaying me. And then Callisto sits down, and he says, and I said, oh, well, come on. I was like, I said, let's let him weigh in. And I knew he was from Mexico City, and I was like, watch this. Like, I already knew, and I go, hey, Manny, what you ever seen a UFO or anything like that in the sky? And he's like, oh, yeah, like on the baseball field, like practice, like we were all like, yeah, we've seen, and I was like, yeah, Mexico City, a hot spot, man. He's like, oh, yeah, we'd see stuff all the time. And then the next person sat down there, a photographer, there. And then I was like, what about you, Johnny Photo? You ever seen anything? And he's like, oh, yeah, driving in between L.A. and down one night, I saw something that I didn't know what it was, and so all of a sudden, Miz became the minority. Instead of sitting at the table, he went from calling me the outcast or the freak to now all of a sudden Miz is outnumbered, and that was just who happened to sit down. Not as just polling everybody. So I do think it's more common, but because it is a fringe subject, people can be apprehensive to talk about things that they've seen or that they believe that aren't common.
I've found that the most people that are really skeptics are either overly religious or overly atheistic, and they have a hard time trying to wrap their mind around this being, out of their comfort zone, out of their little box.
Well, right, or have trouble with gray area, or maybe grays specifically, but gray area concepts and thoughts, and they need to touch something, or need to have an absolute answer one way or the other.
Well, I can tell you, in our area, we're in New England, in an area that's called the Bridgewater Triangle, which has more than its fair share of not only UFO sightings and abduction cases, but ghost stories, Bigfoot sightings, Thunderbird sightings, all kinds of high strangeness, and there's weirdness of every kind up here. And a couple of years ago, Chris Jericho came up here, and he and I filmed a sizzle reel together for a possible paranormal show. So when you're out in your travels, if you're coming around the Northeast, let us know, because the Bridgewater Triangle would make a great episode of UFO Show, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we would love to come there. So yeah, maybe coming up, because I will do it in spring or summer in your areas. I have a bit of an aversion to the cold. So
understandable.
But yeah, for sure. And I love not trying to, the cities you could do just on the triangle. We could do 3 episodes just on that. We like to do three at a time. And so we were talking about Mexico City as well. And I was like, we could do all 3 episodes just right there with all of the stuff that has happened.
And that's the thing is, I worked on a show called Haunted Towns where we said, we're not going to go to the big cities and the places that everybody knows about. We're going to go to the smaller places where it has a big impact on it, and where it matters, where it becomes part of the culture. So instead of just being one small little thing of a big city's history, it's one big thing in a small town's history. Yeah,
I love that. When there's so much information out there already, it's like, why go to Salem? Like, there's so much information out there already. We already know that. We can go to ones that we don't know so much, because isn't that like part of why it's fun to watch or listen to something is, you don't need the same information that you already know force-fed to you in a different slick package. It's like, let's, go think a little bit outside.
And the best part about UFO Show is Amy will tell you where all the best snacks are when you go. And the good ones, the healthy ones too.
I'll set you up to have your own on-the-ground experience there, not just with the UFO stuff, but I'll tell you where the restaurants and tourist attractions too, and to have fun while you're there.
Absolutely. Well, everybody can check it out on Asy TV, asytv.com. It's UFO Show with Amy Dumas. And Amy, we thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we can get out there and watch the skies together sometime.
Absolutely. I would love to. We will stay in touch and make a plan to do that.
All right. Take care. Have a great night. Thank you for joining us.